Good morning and welcome to this week's Grow, where we gather to recharge, organize, and work here as members of MWEG. We're so glad you're joining us today. We are going to discuss what does it take to run for office. We have had some MWEG members who have taken the brave leap to enter into some elections, and it's becoming that season where you can declare that. So we have Catherine Esslinger with us today, and she's going to talk to us about what does that take, what does it look like, and if you're thinking about running maybe for a school board or a city council, maybe something a little bit larger for your state or your a county seat, something like that. We're just going to talk a little bit about that, and also just know that we're all here being cheerleaders for each other. So I'm going to go ahead and turn the time over to Catherine.
Thank you so much, Rachel. And we also have Elisa Mercer, who's here. She is a member of the Davis School Board in Davis County, Utah. She was elected, was it last year, Elisa?
I started in January.
In January. Okay, so
So I was
she was
elected in November, but
just
yeah.
elected. That's
Yeah.
fantastic. I don't know if I know we have many other MWEG members who have run for office or are currently serving. Maybe you're running right now. I don't know if anyone in this call is in that group, but we want to hear some of your thoughts too, if you have any of those to share. I'm going to share my screen and we will start talking about what it takes. What does it take to run for office? So I should tell you also that I ran for state legislature in Utah in 2020. I was not elected. So, but that's okay. We value even trying. It takes a lot to put your name on the ballot and to participate in our election process. So here's what it does not take. This is what you do not need. You do not need to know everything, and you do not need to be perfectly prepared, because you will never be perfectly prepared and you will never know everything. And I also like to think of what some people say that, well, Michelle Obama said that the people who are sitting in boardrooms, people who are doing leadership roles, they are not that smart. They are just like you and me. So you and I can also take leadership roles in our local government, in our state government, in our school boards, in all of those areas. So you do not need to be perfectly prepared. I think many of the skills that we value and we help develop here in MWEG, like listening, valuing other perspectives, peacemaking, finding ways to learn from one another. Those are skills that you do need, but you don't need to be an expert. Here are some of the things that we do think you need. And Elisa will agree, I'm sure, with many of these things. You do need, first of all, you need to have supportive friends and family. It would be very challenging if you didn't have your immediate family on board and friends who were willing to support you, because you will need various kinds of help. Elisa, do you have thoughts about the support that you need from friends and family?
Absolutely. Friends and family made a huge difference. But I was also surprised at how many people were willing to jump in and support that I didn't expect that would jump in. But my husband and my kids were my biggest helpers.
Yeah, for sure. Yes, I used my children and my husband to help with distributing campaign literature and uh, go buy the donuts for the campaign volunteers, or please take care of dinner while we're doing a campaign event, things like that.
Yes, and
Relatedly,
also for mental health support.
oh, for sure, yes. Relatedly, you definitely need some specific support. You need mentors who can advise you about campaign issues and matters. So that might be past candidates. That might be people who are serving in office right now. That could be, there are a lot of experts and assistants. Some of these are paid and some of them could be just volunteers. They could be networks that you've built through just your community engagement. Elisa, did you have the benefit of mentors?
Yes, I most definitely had the benefit of mentors. The person who had the I was about to say calling, but the elected position before I did, she she encouraged me to run, but also had kind of a resolving concerns session with me and was always available for me to call and talk with. And then there were other elected officials that were really helpful. I had a group of 5 or 6 elected officials that I would call regularly when I had questions or just wanted to talk through things with. So
Yeah.
lots of mentors.
Yeah, essential. And we hope that in an informal way, and also at our conference, we do usually have elected officials that are wearing those buttons that say, ask me about running for office. So in here in MWEG, we are really trying to help you to find those people and to kind of learn from them and develop those relationships. Another thing that you need is you're going to need some money to finance the work of a campaign. So you're going to need to do some fundraising and ask for donations. It is best not to self-fund, even though it could be tempting to, because asking people for donations is a very uncomfortable thing to do. I think it's okay to self-fund your campaign to some degree, but to entirely self-fund it deprives you of the community support and demonstrating that there are people behind you who back you. So you want to make sure that there are people who would give you $5, $20, $100 to help you get your message out. If you don't have that backing, then it's going to be a little harder for you to convince your community that you are someone that they should vote for. I know it's very hard to ask for funds. I have just recently in this local election cycle, I have had local campaigns asking me for money, which I actually appreciate because I was thinking about it, and very often local candidates are not the ones who are asking for a few dollars here or there. And I think if you know someone in your community and you value their leadership, you're probably really likely to say, yeah, I'd give you $10 so that you could buy some signs or buy some mailers or some flyers or help, feed your volunteers. I think don't be afraid to ask your network for donations because most of if your supporters are going to be really willing to step up with a little bit of funding.
I was going to add that I was really nervous about fundraising. It wasn't something that I was familiar at all with. I had lots of experience with recruiting volunteers, but not with fundraising. And typically school board races aren't that expensive, but the school board race that I was in probably blew out of the water the amount of money that was spent on a local school board race. And I also decided I couldn't self-fund. Like it just wasn't an option for our family. And I also felt like this my donation is my time. And I spent a lot of time doing that. So some little things that I did that and so I was able to raise $35,000 all from donations, which I was really proud of. And I was outspent on my school board race. um, it was pretty crazy. But some little things that I did that made it easier was I wrote a text message that just said, hey, I'm running. These are things that I care about. Will you be a founding owner? I texted it to 50 people. And then things that I did on social media where I wanted to have 100 separate donors before a certain date. And so I encourage people to donate through that. I do think one of the things that I gained from raising funds was not only the money itself, which was absolutely necessary, but it also gave me a lot of um, encouragement when things were hard to listen. Not that are going to be listen and the join up and people can donate $20. So it really did help me even emotionally to look at campaign journalists and think these are people that okay, and I can do this.
Yeah, that's amazing. And I think you brought up another really important point that not every candidate can self-fund. Certainly not $35,000 worth of self-funding, but even just even a few thousand is. And we don't only want people who can self-fund to be running for office because that deprives us of so many perspectives that are really valuable and important in meeting the needs of our communities.
Absolutely.
So
And I ran against someone who did self-fund and I was outspent by them. So it was, it was, there was that kind of dichotomy of those two different candidates. One was funded by, and I think a lot of people donate, they're engaged and they're more willing to speak up and they get buy-in. And I think that fundraising itself helped push me over the edge.
that's amazing. Yeah. So there's a plug for fundraising, even though nobody likes it. It's really important for so many
Absolutely.
reasons. Okay, you will need volunteers to help with running events. Maybe you're going to have some little in-house cottage meetings. You need people to host those. You need people to knock doors. You need people to help you put out signs and all kinds of things like that. So maybe you need somebody to run communications for you, or you need all kinds of things. So you will need some volunteers. And if you have an idea of like specific roles, if you tell people, hey, I need somebody to do this at this time on this date, that's really helpful for a volunteer to know, yeah, I can commit to that if I can do something really specific. So you said you had some good volunteers, Elisa?
Yeah, I absolutely had good volunteers. And I think again, the same thing with fundraising. Asking someone to volunteer creates buy-in. And so it creates this feeling of, okay, not only do I support you, but I'm going to talk to my friends about you. And I think it's important to have different levels of what people can do. So you can have people like, are you willing to knock doors in your neighborhood for me? Are you willing to host a cottage meeting? Are you, all the way down to, will you just post about this on social media? Will you do small things? And I tend to be of the mindset, like if someone does follow through, then I ask them again, and then I ask them, and kind of increasing responsibilities. And I think I like to go with the mindset of I'm giving people the opportunity to participate in democracy. And while it's not just them, it's not me asking them to do it for me. I'm asking them to do it for the ideals that we share. And so that was a little bit easier when I asked people to do things. Of course, there's my kids that sometimes they were required to do it so that they could get screen time. But there were friends that showed up and also that again bolstered my confidence. And there are all sorts of, I think, always thinking about what's something different that you can do. There are some people that knocking doors is something they're never going to do, but maybe they'll go put out signs for you and you can say, hey, I just want one evening. These are the corners where I want these large signs put out. Will you and a partner go and put these? And that takes a lot of work and a lot of time. Um, Even stuffing envelopes and I also had postcards printed. I had people handwrite notes on the back of these saying, hey, my friend Elisa is running for office. Will you? And I sent those to an area where local ordinances didn't allow us to knock doors. So I think be creative and look for ways. If someone says they want to help, then give them a job right away and ask them to make sure that you engage them immediately.
That's great. Those are great ideas. I love those. Okay, and you also probably need an online presence. I have heard people say, if I look for a candidate and they don't have a website and I can't find like a campaign social media account, then I know that they are not really that interested in this role. So that can be like a disqualifying sign. So make sure that you have an online presence. Setting up a website is something you can get a volunteer to help you with. And so that and managing your social media presence is also something that a volunteer could help with. So those are some things that you definitely need. It sounds like you had some social media help and website help too.
Yes, I had never made my own website, but I did make one. I went on GoDaddy and made one that was fairly good, and it was easier to do than I thought it would be. And then after the primary, I had someone help me switch it over to Squarespace and make it a little more uh, professional looking. I actually had someone at one point when I was knocking doors say, "Oh, you look like you spent a lot of money on your website." And I said, "No, I spend a lot of time and asking for help on my website." But social media was really helpful. Definitely, I had an online presence. I made a big effort to. I, I I I think when you're running for office, and I think you're going to get to this, but like feeling qualified. Sometimes I felt like, well, why am I qualified for this? I don't know a lot about school policy and things like that. And some of my mentors said like, well, you go to all these school activities, just start posting about them. and I realized, oh, these are things that I'm going to anyways, but I'm just going to post about it. And I had lots of people say, oh, we're voting for you because you are already in our schools. You're already showing up. Um, and I just had to post about those things. And some advice that I would give on that is, um, yes, get like a nice headshot, professional, or I mean, I just had my husband take it and we edited it and it looked nice. And I had that one like really nice headshot. And then the rest of the time, I just didn't worry about what I looked like or how sweaty I was. And I did lots of like, and I had never done this before, like the walking and talking videos. I'd never done one of those previously, but I did it for the campaign and I didn't worry about, does my hair look good? Do I like, just be yourself? And yes, you can have your nice headshot. But then after that on social media, just be, people want to vote for people that they feel are relatable. And social media and online presence gives you a chance to do that. It gives you a chance to um, be present and be real. And so I would say do that as much as possible because it just keeps you front of mind in people's in people's thoughts.
Yeah, I do remember being extremely sweaty a lot during my campaign.
Yes.
Yes, it's good times. All right, so who can help you with these things? This you got to think about your resources here too. So past candidates in your area, we talked about that a little bit. National organizations, there's organizations like She Should Run, and they run virtual trainings. There's other organizations like this too that will help you kind of know what you need to do to be prepared. There are local or state organizations that are unique to your area. Now, I know a few in Utah, like for the Women's Leadership Institute has a political development series that's really great. And then there's Utah Women Run, which is also, they run workshops for a Saturday where they cover a lot of different topics in in like little breakout groups and things like that. Those are great organizations, and your community, your state will have these things too. You'll have to look for those, and but they do exist. If you're running for a partisan office, your county or state political party will have a lot of resources that they can share. They'll have consultants and policies, and maybe they'll have some money that they can help you with. And then you might have local or state political action groups. I can think of a few in our local area that have supported or endorsed different candidates for city councils and for school board races. Those organizations, if you can connect with them and they can endorse you and help you to get your name out there a little bit more. Are there any other resources that you would add to this, Elisa?
I think this is a great list. And I also think that, yeah, just talking to people. You can also look at a resource you can look at is past donors to similar candidates. And those lists are available on your lieutenant governors or some states don't have lieutenant governors, but you can look up campaign contributions and look up a candidate that has similar and then look at the names on there. And those are people that you can look through and say, hey, do I know these people? Do I, and maybe ask them for donations, but also just asking them for help is really, they're people who are engaged in the process.
That's great. And there may be different groups that have contributed in that way too that you can find from that list. That's a really great idea. All right. Well, so I want you to start thinking about running today. This could be a kind of a years-long process of thinking about running, thinking about, is this the right time for me to run? So today is the day to start thinking about this. There's probably not like a filing deadline coming right up for you, although there could be. There are elections all the time in different counties and cities and localities. But today's the day for you to start thinking, when is my time going to be? When can I get ready? And what do I need to be? What do I need it to be in order in my life in order for me to run for office? So kind of pay attention to the dates when candidates in your area need to file. Those could be, sometimes they're several months in advance. Sometimes they're like almost a year in advance. So be aware of those dates. And also you may be surprised at the number of different elected offices that are in your area that you have not thought about before that are low profile, but also have a big impact on your community. So look into, do you have a water board or library board or other things like that, where your talents could be useful, but are a little bit lower profile that you could think about contributing. And another thing that you can do is continue to expand and strengthen your network. Like Elisa, you talked about how you're attending school events anyway, being out in your community and doing the things that you normally do, but just kind of think about, well, how is this maybe helping me to prepare for that day when I'm going to run for office? Because the fact is that we need all of you. We need great candidates at all levels doing great work. And we know that our MWEG membership is super engaged and very competent and would make outstanding candidates for any office. Have
Absolutely.
any other ideas?
Absolutely. I was just going to say that in Utah, we have community councils at our schools, which are boards of parents and teachers that oversee some of the funding. And someone told me early on when I was feeling like, oh, maybe I'm not exactly qualified for this. She said, if you've been on the community council, that's the junior version of the school board. You've done it. You're doing the job already. You just have to do it on a larger scale for the whole district. And I think that it really was great preparation. I'd been on community councils for 8 or 9 years and realized like, oh, I'm doing these jobs already. And I also got to meet the people that would be key contacts during that time too.
That's amazing. Yeah, we're already doing the work, so why not start using it for running for office? So I hope you'll all think about
And
how you can
the
participate.
Oh, did I just get kicked off? Oh no, it just did a weird thing for a second. Sorry, it's still there. Um, sorry, I was just going to add that I also like I didn't intend to run for office. My plan was always to help other people who were running for office, and I've done that several times. That is actually great preparation as well to volunteer on someone else's campaign and see how that works, um, how that process works. Um, and I actually was when I did decide to run for office, I was with a group of people who were working really hard to find who was going to be the best. We knew that there were two school board candidates that were not going to run for reelection, and so I was part of a committee of people that were looking for candidates that supported public education. And it was one of those things where all of a sudden I realized, as being part of that committee, I guess that candidate is me. It's not someone else. It's not another person that we're looking for, but that candidate is me. And that was kind of a crazy feeling at the moment, but it also was exciting to realize that supporting of other candidates helped lead me to want to run for office.
That's so true. Yep. I love that you had that moment of realizing, wait, it's me. I hope everyone will have that moment.
All right. I'm just wondering if there's any questions in the chat. I don't see any, but if anybody has some questions for Catherine or Elisa about running or would like or questions about some resources that we could maybe help with, we're totally open to get those for you. I was thinking when you were talking about your online presence, one of the things that I often go and look for, like I use Ballotpedia, and sometimes I see that candidates haven't filled out and they don't have their website linked or anything like that. And I think that's one thing that resources, but notice that some kids don't fill that out. So I would just say, running for office, fill out some of these resources so that people can find you, so we can find your website, so we can ideas or what your platform is, depending on what office you're running for. Jen Mullins, she's asking, how can we help on campaigns besides donating and sharing socials?
Well, I know that if you called or texted a candidate and said, I'd like to help you with your campaign, that they would jump for joy and find you a role. That's one major way that you could help. If you want to do something a little more informal, you could start talking about that candidate with your friends and your neighbors, and um, be a person who can like share resources or to help talk up a candidate. Ask for a sign that you can put in your yard for that candidate.
If I'd also want to add that you could also offer, hey, can I take you out and introduce you to people in my neighborhood that are well connected or people that I think you should know? Helpful things that people did for me, either going with me to knock doors in their neighborhood, or even if it was just, oh, I only have an hour and I'm going to take you to these 5 doors and introduce you on the doorstep to these people. That was super helpful for me.
Right, that connection between someone that they know and a candidate is very powerful. So that's like a powerhouse move right there.
Yeah, and I would say that if you have somebody running for city council or school board that you feel really strongly about supporting, having or hosting a candidate like meet and greet in your home, and then inviting friends and neighbors in their area to say, hey, if you have questions for this candidate, come to my house, safe space, I'll feed you some good food, and you can chat one on one or listen to them talk and then ask your questions in a more intimate setting. That's something that we've done at our house.
I would also add that it doesn't matter if a lot of people show up for that meet and greet, if because a lot of people lives are busy and things, but if that getting that invitation that says, hey, I'm Elise and I'm inviting you to meet my friend Kate who's running for city council. Just getting that invitation, even if they don't come to the meet and greet, is a huge help, because they know sometimes they don't even need to have the whole, they just know, oh, that at least they cares enough about that person to have them in our home.
There's another question in the chat. It says, can you discuss how to hire a campaign manager or social media help? I would say one for social media help. You could look to college students or even like a high school senior, somebody that you trust who is well connected or, you know, is a big user of the social medias that might want some volunteer hours or an internship type role, to save yourself some money. I don't know about campaign manager, Catherine.
Yeah, I did not hire a campaign manager because I didn't have the funding. Elisa, did you have one?
Can you still hear me? My Zoom is doing a little bit weird things.
Yeah.
Uh, okay, you can't hear me. I also didn't hire a campaign manager. I did have friends that had experience with that advised me, but they did that volunteering, which was very kind. But I would say if you are going to hire a campaign manager, you're going to want to make sure that your ideologies are aligned, and I would want to see previous work in campaigns, significant working campaigns. I did have 2 interns from the University of Utah that worked on my campaign that were really helpful. And they were both people that I knew that offered to help with the campaign. And they were able to get credit for that through the university, which was really helpful. And one of the best things about college age students is they, especially one had just come home from a mission. So but they were happy to knock doors with me. They didn't get as tired as I did walking around in the heat. They did a wonderful job with that. But that was really, really helpful to have that. But a campaign manager, definitely, you're going to want to make sure that you get referrals from other people, talk to people that and make sure that they've worked on campaigns prior to yours before they manage a campaign. But you can definitely get volunteer campaign managers if that's a spouse or a friend or someone that wants to help you with that. And I do think it is helpful to have someone that's going to help keep you accountable, because it is hard sometimes to get out the door and go knock doors or do whatever it is that you need to do. But and with that said, I always, when I was feeling overwhelmed, if I went out and knocked doors, I always felt happier after knocking doors. It reaffirm my faith in humanity and um, just made me feel more like I was making progress towards the goal.
Yeah, for sure. I think with a social media volunteer, I just made sure I had a social media volunteer, and I just made sure that I had um, detailed exactly what I was looking for, you know, what the tone was in the types of messages I wanted, and how frequently I wanted things posted, and I was approving things and making sure that they were, you know, meeting what I my goals as a what how I wanted to be presented. Those were some things that I just wanted to make sure. So we needed to make sure that we were like Elisa said, like aligned in the way we wanted to present me and to run a campaign.
And also even on branding and colors and things like that, make sure that that's consistent. That's something I didn't know a lot about, and but everything that I posted on social media, and I just try to brand it every single time I've made, and every single time I'd say again, I'm Elisa, and I'm running for Davis School Board. And so make sure that those things are consistent also.
That's great. And a lot of times a younger, like a student would maybe be studying you know, that type of marketing. So that could be a
Yeah,
really useful resource.
they certainly knew it better than I did.
Are there any other questions that you have for Catherine or Lisa that we can maybe help brainstorm? I don't see any other questions. Well, Catherine, if you have anything else you wanted to share, close with.
Um, we here at MWAG always want to help women to find ways to do the things that are important to them in their communities. So reach out to me if you are looking for any kind of assistance, and maybe we can find ways to support you in more as you work toward becoming a candidate.
That's so great. Yes, and MWAG doesn't have its own like supports, like candidate support system, but we have resources to connect you with like organizations that Catherine referred to, and possibly people to help you um, network with. So it's really great. And like Lisa said, just get out there and start, open your mouth and tell people you have interests. And like you said, the community council was a great place to connect you with people who can help you network with more people, more people. So I just really love that. So thank you to both of you for being on today's Grow. And thanks to all of you who have been with us today. I just want to invite you to join us next week. We are going to do some media literacy, part of our media literacy series. And so we just want you to come back and learn with us. So I will post a recording of this in MWAG Central and with a link to the YouTube link. So if you want to share it with anybody you know that is thinking about running for office, just to give them some encouragement, I please do that and invite them to come to MWAG if they're looking for a community of women to support them and cheer them on. So we will see you guys next week. Thank you.